The school loomed over Daniel, casting an ominous shadow that seemed to stretch endlessly. It was a hulking shadow against the gray sky, a monolith of forgotten memories and whispered secrets. Broken windows stared like empty eyes, hollow and haunting, as if the building itself was watching him. Cracked pavement snaked towards the entrance, each step echoing with the crunch of forgotten footsteps. A shiver ran down Daniel's spine, a cold reminder of the stories he'd heard about this place. He didn't want to go in, but curiosity and a sense of duty pushed him forward. He was the new kid, the odd one out, the one who didn't belong. His parents had moved him to this town just before the school year started, uprooting his life and leaving him adrift. Now he was stuck in this creepy school, a place that seemed to breathe with its own life. He wished he was anywhere else, anywhere but here, in this place that felt like a prison. As he entered, the air grew cold, a chill that seemed to seep into his bones. Dust motes danced in the pale light filtering through grimy windows, creating an eerie, almost magical atmosphere. The scent of decay hung heavy in the air, a reminder of the years of neglect and abandonment. It felt like stepping into a forgotten tomb, a place where time stood still and memories lingered. Then he saw him, Mr. Ashford, the science teacher, standing at the end of the hallway. He stood at the end of the hallway, a tall, thin figure with an air of authority. A tall, thin figure with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. There was something not quite right about Mr. Ashford. Something that made Daniel's skin crawl. Daniel shuffled into the science classroom, his heart pounding in his chest. The room was dimly lit, casting eerie shadows on the walls. He could feel the weight of the unfamiliar environment pressing down on him. He felt all eyes on him, scrutinizing his every move. The whispers started almost immediately, a low murmur that seemed to echo in his ears. Whispers followed him like shadows, growing louder with each step he took. He wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor and escape the prying eyes. He hated being the new kid, the outsider. It was a feeling he knew all too well, having moved from town to town more times than he could count. He slumped into an empty seat at the back, hoping to go unnoticed. But the room's atmosphere was thick with curiosity and judgment. The room smelled of formaldehyde and fear, a combination that made his stomach churn. The scent was almost overpowering, mingling with the musty odor of old books and dust. Dusty beakers cluttered the tables, remnants of past experiments that seemed to whisper their own secrets. The clutter added to the sense of chaos and unease. A skeleton hung from the ceiling, grinning down at him with a macabre smile. It seemed almost alive in the dim light, its hollow eyes following his every move.
Today, class, we delve into the wonders of the human body. Mr. Ashford's voice was calm and authoritative, cutting through the tension in the room.
Mr. Ashford's voice cut through the silence, commanding attention. It was a voice that demanded respect and focus. It was smooth, almost hypnotic, drawing the students in with every word. There was something mesmerizing about the way he spoke. He spoke of the human body, detailing its complexities and marvels. His passion for the subject was evident, and it captivated the students. His words dripped with a strange intensity, as if he was revealing the secrets of the universe. Daniel couldn't help but feel a mix of awe and dread. Daniel felt a knot of unease in his stomach, a sensation that grew with each passing moment. The room seemed to close in around him. The other students hung on to Mr. Ashford's every word, their eyes wide with fascination. They were completely absorbed in the lesson. Their eyes shone with an unnerving light, a reflection of the teacher's own intensity. It was as if they were under a spell. Daniel felt a shiver of fear run down his spine, his skin prickling with goosebumps. The atmosphere was almost suffocating. He was trapped in a nightmare, unable to escape the oppressive feeling that surrounded him. The classroom, once a place of learning, had become a place of dread. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Daniel couldn't shake the feeling of wrongness that clung to Mr. Ashford. His lessons grew stranger with each passing day. He spoke of unlocking hidden potential, of transcending limitations. His words were captivating yet unsettling. One day, Mr. Ashford dissected a frog. It was a routine lesson, or so it seemed, but it wasn't like any dissection Daniel had seen before. The frog twitched, its eyes opened, it screamed, a high-pitched, horrible sound that echoed in the silent classroom.
Observe closely, class. This is a rare phenomenon. This is the marvel of life and its mysteries. The boundaries between life and death are not as clear as they seem.
Daniel looked around the room, his heart pounding in his chest. None of the other students seemed to notice the oddity. They watched with fascination, completely absorbed. They watched with fascination as Mr. Ashford continued his work, his hands moving with precision. A cold dread settled in Daniel's gut, a feeling he couldn't shake off. That night, Daniel had nightmares. Vivid, terrifying dreams that felt all too real. He dreamt of the screaming frog, its eyes wide with terror, of Mr. Ashford's cold, calculating eyes watching him intently, and of something dark and hungry lurking beneath the surface, waiting to be unleashed. The note was slipped under Daniel's desk. He unfolded it slowly, his heart pounding. "Meet me after school, Daniel," it read. Mr. Ashford. Fear warred with curiosity. He knew he shouldn't go, but something drew him in. Perhaps it was the hope of understanding, of finding out what was really going on. The school was deserted when Daniel returned. Shadows stretched long and menacing in the fading light. He found Mr. Ashford in the science lab. He was surrounded by bubbling beakers and strange contraptions.
You're curious, Daniel.
Mr. Ashford's smile was too wide. He held up a vial filled with a glowing green liquid.
This is the key.
Section 5, Transformations.
Daniel watched in horror as his classmates drank the potion. Their bodies contorted, bones cracked and shifted.
Screams echoed through the lab, but they weren't screams of pain.
They were screams of twisted joy. They were changing, becoming something else.
Their eyes glowed with an unnatural light. Their skin took on strange textures. They were no longer human.
One by one, they turned to Daniel. Their smiles were grotesque parodies of human expressions. They beckoned him closer, invited him to join their transformation, to become one of them.
Daniel backed away, his heart pounding against his ribs. He had to get out of there.
Terror threatened to consume him, but something inside Daniel refused to break. A spark of defiance ignited within him. He wouldn't let Mr. Ashford win. He looked at his classmates. Their eyes held a flicker of recognition, of pleading. They were trapped, imprisoned within their mutated forms. He had to help them. He remembered something Mr. Ashford had said about the transformations, about willpower being the key. Could he use their own fear against them? Could he break through to whatever remained of their humanity? He took a deep breath and shouted, not a scream of terror, but a roar of defiance, a challenge to Mr. Ashford and the darkness that held his classmates captive. The sound of Daniel's voice seemed to echo through the transformed students. Their eyes flickered. The grotesque smiles wavered. Doubt crept into their unnatural postures. Mr. Ashford's eyes narrowed. He hissed, his composure cracking. He hadn't anticipated this resistance, this defiance. He raised his hand, a vial of shimmering liquid clutched in his grasp. Daniel knew this was his only chance. He had to act fast. He lunged, knocking the vial from Mr. Ashford's grasp. It shattered against the stone floor, the liquid evaporating into a noxious cloud. The lab filled with a blinding light. A wave of energy pulsed outwards. Daniel shielded his eyes, his ears ringing. The transformations were reversing, but at what cost? When the light subsided, the lab was silent. The transformed students were gone. In their place lay his classmates, pale and weak, but human. They looked around in confusion. Their memories were hazy, like a half-remembered nightmare. But the terror in their eyes spoke volumes. They knew something was terribly wrong. Daniel helped them to their feet. They stumbled out of the lab into the night, away from the school that held their terror, away from Mr. Ashford and his sinister experiments. But as they left, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't truly free. That something lingered, a shadow that clung to their heels, a reminder of the nightmare they had barely escaped. They never spoke of that night again, not to each other, not to anyone, but the memories lingered, etched into their minds like scars on their souls. Daniel left the town soon after, but he never truly left the shadow of that school behind. He carried the fear with him, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of the ordinary. Sometimes in his dreams, he would see Mr. Ashford smile, hear the screams of his transforming classmates, and he would wake up in a cold sweat, knowing that some nightmares never truly end. They had escaped with their lives, but their innocence was lost, forever changed by Mr. Ashford's sinister science class.